All right, listen up. I'm going to be real with you. Nobody is going to rebuild your life for you. No coach, no mentor. No book is going to do it if you don't take the first step. And that first step, it's killing the habits that are dragging you down. Let's be honest, weak habits are like silent assassins. You don't notice them, but every day they chip away at your potential. Hitting snooze 5 times, mindlessly scrolling your phone, procrastinating on important tasks. These things seem small, but over months and years they add up. That's why you need to call them out, one by one, and destroy them. Here's the secret though, don't just try to remove them. You've got to replace them. You can't leave a void in your life and expect growth. Swap scrolling Instagram at 10 p.m. for reading, learning, or planning your next day. Trade junk food for fuel that actually makes you perform better. Build systems around the person you want to become, not just the person you are today. And let's cut the excuses. Consistency beats motivation. Motivation is like firework energy, flashy, exciting, gone in 5 minutes. Habits are a slow-burning rocket. They carry you farther faster over time. And yes, rebuilding yourself is uncomfortable. It's awkward at first. Your mind will fight you, your friends might not understand, and your past version of yourself will complain. That's okay. Growth is supposed to be uncomfortable. Track every habit, measure every small win. Small wins are the breadcrumbs that guide you out of your old life. Celebrate them, then keep going. This is how you rebuild yourself, not by waiting for a miracle, but by killing weak habits and replacing them with habits that build the person you're meant to be. At the end of the day, it's simple. Stop running from the hard stuff, embrace the discomfort, kill your weak habits, and watch yourself become unstoppable. Before you can ever think about killing your weak habits or rebuilding yourself, you have to start with self-awareness. Most people operate on autopilot. They get through the day, react to whatever life throws at them, and never stop to reflect on what's really driving their actions. Weak habits aren't random. They're patterns that your mind has adopted over time, often without your conscious permission. If you don't take the time to identify them, you're essentially giving them permission to control your life indefinitely. Self-awareness means being brutally honest with yourself about your routines, your impulses, and your choices. It's not about feeling guilty or beating yourself up. It's about seeing clearly what's actually happening and where the leaks are in your life. When you're aware of what you're doing and why, you start to see the domino effect of small decisions. That 5-minute scroll on your phone isn't just 5 minutes wasted. It's part of a pattern that affects your focus, energy, and momentum throughout the day. Self-awareness allows you to spot these patterns before they become habits that define your identity. The process starts with observation. Take a week and track everything you do, no matter how trivial it seems. What time do you wake up? How do you spend your mornings? Where do you waste energy? And where do you thrive? Journaling, habit tracking apps, or even simple mental notes can reveal behaviors that have gone unnoticed for years. This is not an exercise in shame. It's a practice in clarity. When you see a habit laid bare on paper, you can begin to question it. Ask yourself, does this habit serve me or hold me back? Does it move me toward the person I want to become, or does it anchor me to the person I've been? Self-awareness also includes understanding your triggers. Weak habits often arise in predictable situations: stress, boredom, fear, or even overconfidence. Knowing your triggers allows you to anticipate moments where you're most vulnerable to falling back into old patterns. It's like knowing the terrain before a climb. You can prepare, strategize, and avoid unnecessary slips. Without self-awareness, attempts to kill weak habits are half-hearted at best because you're fighting in the dark. By shining a light on your actions, you gain control, you gain clarity, and most importantly, you gain a baseline from which real transformation can start. Habits are not just things you do, they are the blueprint of who you are. Every choice you make, every action you repeat, becomes a building block of your identity. People often underestimate the power of small, daily habits because they seem insignificant in the moment. But over time, they define your character, your energy, and the trajectory of your life. Think about it. If you hit snooze every morning, skip exercise, or avoid reading and learning, you are training yourself to be a person who procrastinates, stays stagnant, and avoids growth. Conversely, if you wake up early, follow a routine, and consistently invest in yourself, you are shaping the identity of someone disciplined, ambitious, and unstoppable. Habits are the silent architects of your life. They work whether you notice them or not, quietly reinforcing the person you see in the mirror. The reason habits shape identity is that repetition rewires your brain. Every time you repeat an action, your brain strengthens the neural pathways associated with that behavior, making it easier to do again. Weak habits reinforce weakness. Strong habits reinforce strength. The more you perform an action aligned with your goals, the more it becomes a natural part of who you are. This is why people often struggle to change. They are trying to force a transformation at the identity level without first changing the behaviors that build that identity. You can't decide to be disciplined while constantly acting undisciplined. The two cannot coexist. Another critical point is that habits compound over time. One small act of consistency may feel meaningless today, but over weeks, months, and years it compounds into results that can be transformative. The same is true for weak habits. They compound into setbacks, lost opportunities, and frustration. That means every habit matters, no matter how trivial it seems in the moment. Your daily routines are more than tasks. They are declarations about the kind of person you are. Every choice communicates to yourself whether you respect your own time, your goals, and your potential. When you truly understand that habits are the building blocks of identity, your mindset shifts. You start evaluating your actions not just in terms of immediate convenience or pleasure, but in terms of whether they are consistent with the person you want to become. You become less tolerant of excuses, less likely to compromise, and more intentional with your energy. This shift is the difference between living reactively, allowing weak habits to define you, and living proactively, consciously designing the life and identity you aspire to have. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to rebuild themselves is thinking that eliminating a weak habit is enough. You might quit scrolling social media for hours, stop eating junk food, or cut out procrastination and feel like you're done. But habits are more than isolated actions. They are patterns your brain relies on to fill time, manage stress, or give you comfort. When you remove a habit without replacing it, you leave a vacuum, and the brain doesn't like empty spaces. That vacuum almost always gets filled by another habit. And more often than not, it's another weak one. The key to transformation is not just removal, it's replacement. You have to consciously choose behaviors that serve your goals and replace the ones that hold you back. Replacement works because habits are neurological loops. There's a cue, a behavior, and a reward. If you just remove the behavior, the cue and the reward remain, and the loop is left incomplete. Your mind will instinctively try to complete it, often by reverting to old, weak habits. But if you replace the behavior with something positive, you complete the loop in a way that reinforces growth. For example, if stress drives you to snack mindlessly, replacing that snack with a quick walk, journaling, or even deep breathing allows your brain to satisfy the urge to act while simultaneously building a stronger, healthier habit. This is how sustainable change happens, through intelligent replacement rather than brute force elimination. Another reason replacement is crucial is that weak habits often provide a false sense of identity or comfort. People smoke, binge watch, or procrastinate because those behaviors give temporary relief or distraction. Removing the habit without a substitute leaves you feeling deprived, frustrated, or lost. When you replace a weak habit with a constructive one, you not only fill the void, but also start reinforcing the kind of person you want to become. Over time, your actions align with your aspirations, and your brain begins to identify with this new, stronger version of yourself. Replacement is about being proactive rather than reactive. Transformation doesn't happen by waiting for motivation or luck. It happens by planning and choosing daily actions that build the future you want. Every weak habit you kill must be swapped for something that pushes you forward, creates momentum, or reinforces your self-worth. Replacement ensures that change is not temporary, that growth compounds over time, and that every choice contributes to building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. When people talk about transformation, they often focus on motivation. Get motivated and you'll change your life, they say. But motivation is fleeting, unreliable, and completely external. It comes in bursts, sometimes strong, sometimes non-existent, and it rarely lasts more than a few hours or days. If you rely on motivation alone, you are setting yourself up for failure. The truth is that real transformation, the kind that rebuilds your identity and kills weak habits, comes from consistency. Doing the right things repeatedly, day after day, regardless of how you feel in the moment, is what builds results that last. Consistency is powerful because it compounds over time. One small, disciplined action done consistently may feel meaningless today, but in a week, a month, or a year, it adds up into a completely different life trajectory. Hitting the gym once is not transformation. Hitting the gym consistently for months builds strength, resilience, and confidence. Reading for 10 minutes every day eventually gives you knowledge, perspective, and insight that most people never acquire. Consistency is not flashy or exciting. It is boring, it is hard, and it doesn't produce immediate gratification, but it is the engine behind every success story you admire. The problem is that most people mistake motivation for progress. When they feel motivated, they take action, and when motivation fades, they stop. This cycle creates peaks and valleys in performance and often leads to frustration, guilt, and self-doubt. Consistency, on the other hand, is predictable. It doesn't rely on your mood, your energy, or external factors. It's about showing up even when you don't want to, even when the task feels tedious, even when nobody is watching. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, you reinforce your self-discipline and strengthen the habit loop. Consistency also allows you to handle setbacks more effectively. Weak habits or failures don't derail someone who is consistent. They are just temporary obstacles that are absorbed into a larger pattern of progress. A single day off, a missed opportunity, or a lapse in judgment doesn't define the journey. Consistent effort does. By focusing on systems rather than motivation, on routines rather than bursts of energy, you create momentum that carries you forward even when life is difficult, and that momentum eventually overtakes the weak habits and behaviors that have been holding you back. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. In fact, the very habits that hold you back are comfortable. They are easy, predictable, and safe. Scrolling endlessly on your phone, eating poorly, avoiding hard conversations, procrastinating, all of these feel good in the short term, but they quietly erode your potential. To rebuild yourself, to kill weak habits and create a stronger version of yourself, you must learn to embrace discomfort. Discomfort is the signal that you are pushing boundaries, that you are stretching beyond old patterns, and that you are taking actions that matter. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce the very habits that are keeping you stuck. And every time you lean into it, you weaken the grip of old behaviors and strengthen the muscles of discipline and resilience. Embracing discomfort starts with mindset. You have to reframe the way you think about challenges and hard work. Discomfort is not punishment, it is the currency of growth. If you can begin to see the pain of effort as an investment in your future self, the daily sacrifices become purposeful rather than painful. For example, waking up early to work on your skills when your friends are still sleeping is uncomfortable, but it compounds into mastery over time. Saying no to distractions or instant gratification is awkward, but it strengthens your ability to focus and prioritize what really matters. Every action that feels difficult in the moment is a step toward a more capable and empowered version of yourself. Another critical aspect is building tolerance. Most people avoid discomfort because it feels overwhelming or unfamiliar. By gradually taking on challenges that stretch your limits, you train yourself to handle bigger obstacles without fear or hesitation. Start small if you need to. Push yourself just beyond your comfort zone in manageable ways, and then escalate. Over time, you develop what can only be described as resilience. Weak habits thrive in safe, predictable routines, but when you consistently push boundaries, they start to lose power. Discomfort becomes a tool rather than a threat, and you begin to use it to sculpt the life and habits you truly want. Embracing discomfort allows you to act in alignment with your long-term goals rather than short-term comfort. Weak habits often provide immediate pleasure but long-term regret. Leaning into discomfort is the antidote. It shifts your focus from what feels good now to what serves your growth. and it rewires your mind to associate effort with progress rather than pain by consistently choosing what is hard, awkward, or challenging over what is easy, convenient, or lazy. You are literally building new neural pathways that favor strength, discipline, and intentional living, and every weak habit you replace becomes less tempting and less ingrained. Tracking your progress is one of the most underestimated tools for personal transformation. Most people try to rebuild themselves by relying on willpower or vague intentions. But without measurement, there is no accountability. You can say, I want to stop procrastinating, or I want to get healthier. But if you never track whether you are actually doing it, those statements are just wishes, not actions. Progress is invisible unless it is measured, and weak habits thrive in invisibility. By tracking your actions, behaviors, and results, you bring clarity to the process of change. You see what is working, what isn't, and where you need to adjust. Tracking is not about judgment or shame, it is about truth. The process of tracking begins with specificity. Vague goals create vague results. Instead of saying, I want to read more, decide exactly how many pages or minutes you will dedicate each day and record it. Instead of saying, I want to exercise, track exactly what exercises, for how long and how often. When you quantify your actions, you gain insight into your patterns. You begin to notice trends days when your weak habits dominate, triggers that consistently lead to setbacks, or routines that accelerate growth. Without this data, change becomes guesswork, and guesswork rarely produces meaningful results. Tracking also creates accountability. When you record your actions daily, even privately, you are forcing yourself to face reality. There is no hiding behind intentions or excuses. You either did the work or you didn't. This transparency is a powerful motivator because it forces you to make conscious decisions rather than drifting through habits unconsciously. Accountability, even to yourself, strengthens discipline and reinforces the habit loop. Every small action you track is proof of effort, and proof of effort compounds over time into momentum. Another advantage is that tracking allows for reflection and adjustment. Weak habits are persistent because people rarely notice their impact until it is too late. By documenting your behaviors, you can analyze patterns, identify weak points, and make targeted changes. You learn which strategies work and which don't, and you can iterate your approach continuously. Tracking is essentially feedback. It closes the loop between intention, action, and outcome, creating a system of continuous improvement. Finally, tracking progress builds confidence. Seeing small wins accumulate over days and weeks validates your efforts and reinforces the belief that transformation is possible. It provides a visual representation of growth, which strengthens your commitment and fuels further action. Without tracking, you risk underestimating your progress, becoming discouraged, or slipping back into weak habits because the momentum is invisible. Relentless tracking ensures that every step you take toward killing weak habits and building a stronger self is measurable, intentional, and aligned with the person you aim to become. The truth is, rebuilding yourself is not about magic luck or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about facing reality, being brutally honest with yourself, and taking relentless action. Every weak habit you kill, every small change you make, every moment of discomfort you endure compounds into the person you are becoming. Self-awareness shows you where you are. Understanding that habits shape your identity reveals who you could be, and replacing weak habits with strong ones gives your future self the tools to succeed. Consistency ensures you keep moving forward, even when motivation fades. Embracing discomfort accelerates growth. And tracking your progress relentlessly keeps you accountable and aligned with your goals. Every choice you make today either strengthens the habits that hold you back or builds the ones that propel you forward. Transformation isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice, a series of small, intentional actions that over time redefine your life. You have to own it, fight for it, and never settle for shortcuts. The person you want to become is waiting on the other side of your old habits. The question is, are you willing to face the uncomfortable, track the wins, and keep showing up until the weak habits that have been holding you down no longer exist? The power to rebuild yourself is already in your hands. Start now and let your actions speak louder than excuses.